Hello everyone, this is Namerdan, and today we will be doing week 2 of MPL 12, and I've heard that this week is a banger, so let's see what our teams have in store for us. Now, to remind you about what occurred last week, last week we saw a lot of pretty much the same things, a lot of dragon, a lot of dark, we didn't see any ghosts surprisingly, and we saw very little of most of the other types actually. It was basically, I don't think we saw a lot of water either. I think we did see a couple water teams, but it wasn't a lot. But yeah, last week was pretty good. We've been seeing a lot of Hydreigon on Dragon, not so much on Dark. And we did see a really interesting team with the Zapdos Galar team on Flying. I'm interested to see if we might see another iteration of that this week. But yeah, my hopes for this week, I'm hoping to see if maybe Ghost gets used, or if it's going to be a lot of the same, just Dragon, Dark's Hisuian Samura, Hazard Stack spam. But yeah, we'll see how teams adapt, because typically in week 2 we get to see some of the more interesting teams if past MPLs are anything to go by. So let's see how this week goes, and we'll begin with our first game, that being Sagazinha versus Seraphz. And right now we have a fairy team with Qwily, with a flying team sporting a Landorus and Carnage. Actually, Landorus Incarnate is pretty normal for flying. It used to be the other way around. It used to be Landorus Ethereal, and that was more common on flying, but now it's Incarnate because of the Choice Scarf set, I believe. Although, there is no guarantee that this is Choice Scarf. But yeah, very interesting flying team. It kind of looks standard, but this is actually not, like, a very standard flying team whatsoever. We got the Dragonite in Emrys offensive core, assumingly offensive core, and then we also have Corviknight and Gyarados as our defensive walls. The Zapdos set could be anything, but we've seen, I think so far we've seen Substitute and some, a lot of attacker sets. But yeah, Sagazinha's team looks to be very interesting. It definitely looks like most teams, is geared to beat Dark, and as well as Dragon, but against Fairy, Corviknight can probably do quite a bit of work, but I'll let the plays speak for themselves. Alright, as we begin, we lead with Zapdos into the Enamorous on Seraph's side. Zapdos uses Volt Switch immediately, getting Qwily down quite a bit. Qwily sets up the light screen, but the subsequent Earth Power from Landorus will get it KO'd. Qwily being gone already is pretty brutal for Seraph's team, so he has to make good use of what he has right now. It looks like the Primarina maybe specs, based on the damage it did to Gyarados, as I know that is probably the Fat Gyarados set. Aeran does come in on the Earthquake, taking very little damage due to its physical defense. We see the Calm Mind go through, Corviknight coming in and completely walling it because Aeran does not have... Well, it's more so that Corviknight just does a ton of damage with her Iron Head, but yeah. The Moonblast does come out from Primarina. Primarina is forcing quite a bit of switches here, so that is quite good to see. Corviknight will come in, take a nice 29% from the Moonblast, as the Light Screen will end this turn. Primarina taking a hefty amount of damage from that Iron Head. Enamorous will come back out, as Corviknight will roost its HP back up to full, and Seraphz is not looking to be in a very favorable position right now, but he does have Flutter Mane still in the back. Mystical Fire lowering the special attack of Zapdos 2 times on Enamorous as the Thunder Wave goes through. We see a Roost come through on the side of Sagazinha, and a Parastun will stun Enamorous for a turn. Zapdos using Volt Switch to try and get some momentum, as Enamorous does get an attack buff. Another Volt Switch is used, and this time it does KO the Enamorous, as Zapdos' special attack isn't halved this time around. Thunderbolt is used, as Ice Spinner immediately OHKOs the Flutter Mane, so there goes that. Sword Stance on the Iron Phalanx has been used on Seraph's side, as the the knockoff will go through, and it looks like it is looking to be a Life Orb. but due to the static from Zapdos, Iron Valiant does get poisoned, or not poisoned, but paralyzed, and that will be the end of that match, because there's nothing that Iron Valiant can do after being paralyzed. And it's not even so much the stun chance, although that probably is a factor too, but it's also just the fact that it is slowed. And now it just cannot do what it wants to do with its very good speed tier, because now it doesn't outspeed most of the stuff on Sagazinha's team. There also is just a chance that Landorus is Choice Scarf, or an Amorous is Choice Scarf. But yeah, it's pretty bad position for seraphz to be in. So yeah, unfortunate game for seraphz, but it is what it is when it comes to Pokemon. Very well played by Sagazinha, and yeah, this is just pretty standard flying, doing dirty stuff to a type. Looks like people aren't having as much success with Fairy as they did in MWP, so that'll be something interesting to state. That being said, though, yeah, this match was pretty interesting. No real metagame things to note. It does look like, yeah, Dragonite was probably choice banned, just based on the damage it did to Fluttermane, so very surprised the Iceberg does Oko, but Fluttermane is definitely known to be very frail on the physical side, and it doesn't have a lot of HP either, so yeah, let's move on to the next match. Next match we have Qwily versus DugZa. Qwily going for a Weavile Dark team. We saw this last week as well. Might be the exact same team, we'll see. And then DugZa is using a Rotom Wash team, which you haven't seen a lot of Rotom Wash, actually. This water team is actually very interesting. We have Rotom Wash, Empoleon, and Araquanid all on the same team. Rotom Wash is still a really solid mon, I'd say. It's not as common as it used to be on water, but it's still a pretty solid mon. Losing Defog was brutal for it, though. But Araquanid and Empoleon on the same team. Looks like DugZa is... It's interesting, because DugZa's team looks like it is going to be relying a lot on Hazard Stack. It looks like he's trying to take advantage of webs and use Greninja and Urshifu's raw power to kind of destroy his opposition. And Empoleon and Rotom Wash look to be the defensive pivots that'll allow an offensive team like this to work. Since Empoleon, I believe, has a flip turn now, so it can actually swap. I think it also has Roost. But it does seem like his team may be a bit weak on the physical side, because even though the physically defensive Rotom set is pretty decent, especially with Will-O-Wisp, I find that it is kind of underwhelming at taking those hits. And especially against Qwily's team with Meowscarada. I'm not sure how DugZa is going to be able to deal with that, especially with the Mandibus hazard removal, but we'll see how it goes. DugZa sending out Araquanid immediately as Meowscarada immediately goes in and presses the Flower Trick, instantly one-hit KOing the Rotom Wash. Araquanid comes back out. It does take damage, but it does surprisingly survive, as the Leech Life actually brings it to dangerously low HP. Flower Trick being used again on the Meowscarada and KOing the Greninja this time around. Urshifu coming out, looking to get an Aqua Jet off on the Meowscarada. Meowscarada is very low though, which, if DugZa plays his cards right, he could actually potentially turn around this very rough beginning for him. As we do see the Ceaseless Edge come out. Swords Dance is used by the Hisuian Samurai, as we do see the Sacred Sword come out. Does take a bit of tip from the Rocky Helmet. Sacred Sword is used again on the Mandibuzz, as Mandibuzz does use U-turn, not looking to defog here. One spike will be all that's needed to keep Meowscarada out of the fight though, as we do see a Sucker Punch go through. Low Kick is used by Qwily, and it does KO on DugZa's Hisuian Samurai. Araquanid using the HP again effectively, as the webs do go down. Mandibuzz will come in, as we'll probably see a Defiant boost. Oh, nope. Instead, that Mandibuzz opted for Toxic, but the Toxic cannot affect Empoleon due to its Steel typing, as the Roost comes out from Mandibuzz. Foul Play is used, doing very little damage to Empoleon due to its special attacking nature. Qwily looking to maybe outstall the Empoleon, but I do not believe that it wins this 1v1. As we'll probably see yet another Surf coming from the Empoleon. Foul Play does come through onto DugZa's Empoleon, as another Surf is used. As I said, I believe that Qwily does lose this 1v1, or Mandibuzz loses this 1v1 to this Empoleon. as the Seraphs just keep coming through and just doing way too much damage for Mandibles to be able to sustain healthily. And Seraph has a lot of PP as well, to be noted, so it's not like Qwily is going to be able to successfully stall out a lot of the uses, especially for how the rest of this match is going to go. Alright, foul play. Fortunately, Qwily does not get a crit. Crit would have actually sealed DugZa's fate here, as now DugZa is trying to keep Empoleon at a healthy enough HP so that it can still be useful against Darkrai later, as well as Greninja. Foul play doing 27%. DugZa will have to settle with having his Empoleon 73%, but I know he probably wanted it to be a little bit higher. Leafium will be able to come through. Leafium shouldn't be able to do much to Urshifu, as the 31% does go through. Aqua Jet is used by Urshifu. Darkrai with the heavy-duty boots. Oh, DugZa chooses to stay in. As the Empoleon does come out. And, yeah. It looks like this will be a defeat for DugZa, as the Darkrai is just too much to... Oh, wait. The Q-Stop Berry, allowing Araquanid to actually get the Leech Life off and KO Darkrai. Could this be the W? Unfortunately, Greninja is Rock Slide, and it's also Battle Bond. That's another thing that we also saw last week. We saw the first ever Battle Bond Greninja, I believe. Yeah, I think that's the first one we've ever seen in a tournament play. I'm pretty sure we never saw Battle Bond Greninja in MWP. So, yeah. Qwily was able to use another Battle Bond Greninja team, and, yeah. Fortunately, DugZa was able to get really close to winning, especially with the Q-Stop Berry on Araquanid. The team is actually very solid against this Dark team. It's just very unfortunate that Qwily did get those good hits on the Room Wash. If Room Wash were still alive, it would be easier to deal with Weavile, and he wouldn't have had to sacrifice as much HP on Urshifu. But still, a very well played game by both sides. But yeah. Let's move on to the next match. Next match we have is Floss versus Fusien. We have Fusien bringing a Dragon team and Floss with a Dark team featuring Hisui and Samura. Fusien also opting to have the double Dark Dragons with Hydreigon and Roaring Moon on his team, which Roaring Moon on Dragon is actually not very common. So it is very interesting to see this. But besides that, it's a relatively standard. You got Dragon Pole, the double steals, and Latios. Usually Latios would be on a team like this, but we'll see how that goes. And Floss is opting to use, again, Hazard Stack Dark, which has been tried and tested to be a very effective and good strategy, unless it is taken advantage of by certain types. So let's see if Hydreigon may be the tool Dragon needs to turn this matchup. We shall find out. Alright, Goodra comes out, leading against a Mandibuzz on Floss's side, as the U-turn instantly occurs. Tinglu safely coming in, but getting immediately swapped out by Fusion's Dragon Tail. Roaring Moon is forced in, but Fusion once again clicks Dragon Tail. Tinglu lacking the Rocky Helmet. That would punish this Goodra for using Dragon Tail as often as it is. The knockoff will come through, and the leftovers are removed. Tinglu getting no healing from those leftovers the entire time, as Dragon Tail is once again used. Ruination will bring a Goodra to half of its HP, as Hoopa will be slowed, but Goodra will be losing its only recovery, as Dragon Tail is used yet again. Lots of chip happening on the Hoopa, as well as the Tinglu. Probably going to see another Dragon Tail here. Nope, we see the Life Dew. The Life Dew set actually is a relatively decent tech that some people do opt to bring. As the U-turn comes out on the Roaring Moon that's brought in by Dragon Tail. Dragon Tail is used again, and now Meowscarada comes out. Meowscarada will get the KO onto Goodra. Qwily will slow it down though, which will give Fusion probably the opportunity he needs to blow open Floss's team. Draco Meteor coming through, still not KOing Tinglu due to its very bulky nature. but the 2-hit KO will go through. As we see Fusien Samurai come out. Fusien Samurai using Ceaseless Edge, immediately getting that spike down. Once again, Dragon's biggest weakness is those hazard stacking. So Draco Meteor does come through and one-shot the Hydra Grid. A brutal triple axle miss on Floss's side, maybe costing him a lot of HP on Masskeauuu. We'll see if that matters later, but for now, it looks to be not that important, as the Draco Meteor will clean up. The HP loss may have been important there, because there's a chance that it could have lived for full HP, but it's unlikely. Latios does come out, but takes a very brutal U-turn from the Roaring Moon. A Draco Meteor miss on Fusion's side, definitely costing him, as we do see the choice specs revealed on the Latios of Fusion's side. Body Press is used. Hoopa is able to tank it. Archaludon not going to be able to outspeed the Hoopa though. Hoopa opts to use knockoff, the choice scarf being removed from the Roaring Moon. U-turn is used, bringing Mandibuzz to a dangerously low HP at 62%. Archaludon will come in but take a lot of damage from the hazards. Stealth Rock is used, and U-turn is used on the Archaludon. As Hoopa is brought in, Heavy Duty Boots protecting it from those hazards. Focus Blast is unfortunately not hit, sadly. The ever brutal. Yeah, and there's the Toxic, but Toxic cannot do anything to Archaludon, as Floss does forfeit the match. Very unfortunate, super unfortunate sequence of events on Floss's side. Not being able to get that Focus Blast hit was incredibly bad, because if Focus Blast had hit there, Archaludon's low special defense would definitely make it so that it would get KO'd, or at the very least revenge killable for Roaring Moon, who could have potentially cleaned up this match. But unfortunately, that just did not happen. And it looked like Roaring Moon was also Scarf on Floss's side, so him removing the opposing Roaring Moon's choice scarf actually could have sealed him the game, but unfortunately, Focus Miss takes another victim. So that is just the way it is sometimes. But yeah. Both teams, LifeDew, Goodra did a lot of work, considering it didn't even do a lot of tanking, I would say. For their team, that is. It wasn't really acting that much of as a pivot, it was just kind of like an anti-lead, sort of. It just got a lot of momentum going with the Dragon Tail spam, just getting a ton of chip on the entirety of Floss's team. But, yeah. I would say this is a pretty good match, though, outside of the hacksiness that happened. But, yeah, let's move on to the next match. Eternal Spirit versus Luisin. Luisin is opting to use a water team with Manaphy, Alomomola, and Walking Wake, while Eternal Spirit is using Tried and True Hazard Stack Dark with Darkrai, Masskeauuu, and Greninja. Will this Greninja also be Battle Bond? We'll see. We also see Weavile as well. This is probably a very similar team to the one we saw before. So maybe Battle Greninja is going to start becoming meta. You see Masskeauuu immediately lead off as Toxapex comes in. Vessel of Ruin immediately, or sorry, Tinglu coming in immediately. Infestation doing a little bit of chip damage to Toxapex, as Toxapex is outsped and taunted by the Tinglu, who cannot do, and the Toxapex can no longer do anything to Tinglu once it gets taunted. Taunt Tinglu was also a thing that was brought in MWP, so this is not surprising to see here, as the Hydro Steam does connect onto Greninja. We do confirm the Heavy Duty Boots on the Toxapex, as Greninja is Life Orb. Type didn't change though, so that does mean that it is indeed Battle Bond. We see Mandibuzz come out, as Toxapex does take the U-turn pretty well. Toxapex getting a Toxic onto the Weavile, putting Weavile on a very brutal timer. Knockoff is used and removes the Heavy Duty Boots on Hisuian Samurai. We do not see the low kick, as the Ceaseless Edge does come through on the Mandibuzz, getting a spike down. Mandibuzz does use U-turn on the Toxapex, as Weavile comes back out, takes damage from the spikes. Toxapex is swapped out immediately. Toxapex looking to preserve its heavy-duty boots, it seems. So, yeah, Walking Wake will come through. Walking Wake, outsped. Walking Wake outsped with a choice scarf. That means the Weavile is choice scarf. That's new. That's definitely new. But yeah, the Weavile will be KO'd by the subsequent Dragon Meteor. Toxapex will be sent in with Darkrai using a nasty plot with its momentum. The Toxic will go through on Darkrai, and Darkrai will take down Hisuian Samurott. As we see the flinch, a very brutal flinch, put onto the Swampert. Definitely not ideal for luisin at all, as the Swampert is very important for the team to succeed. And we do see the raw Masskeauuu swap in. Will this be enough damage? It is not. As we do see Toxapex get fully healed due to Toxapex having very low HP, which, yeah, that is a little known fact, which is why Wish on Alomomola does so much on Toxapex, because it basically full heals it. Infestation will come through on the Darkrai, as Darkrai is basically going to die on this turn. Toxapex is probably just going to click Recover and stall it out. But yeah, Darkrai is KO'd by Infestation plus Toxic. As Meowscarada comes in again, the knockoff now coming through, and Toxapex will no longer have its heavy-duty boots. However, Meowscarada is now trapped with the Infestation, as knockoff will be repeatedly used, but it'll be slowly whittled down. Probably enough to Spike's range. So even if Eternal Spirit does switch out by the time Infestation ends, it will just be gone. And yeah, an additional Infestation will seal Meowscarada's fate, as the knockoff does go through, and the Infestation will get the KO. Tinglu coming out as the Manaphy comes in as a response. The Surf will be used. Manaphy having a leftovers. Will we see the Tail Glow here? We do see a substitute. The Toxic failing. That is very good for luisin. The Foul Play not doing enough damage to break the substitute either. It's GG. It's GG. Ice Beam getting the KO, and a Greninja should fall due to it being chipped down. Dark Pulse will hit nothing as the Surf comes through and KOs. Very well played by luisin. Taking advantage of the bad hacks on the Swampert and turning it around into a solid victory. Manaphy, very scary late game cleaner. Once Meowscarada is out of the picture. Once Meowscarada got KO'd by Toxapex, Manaphy was able to just completely demolish the rest of the team that remained. So, very well played. Very well played by luisin. Alright, I'll be right back to cover the rest of these matches. I just need to take a quick break. So I'll be right back. Alright, we are back, and now we're going to head into the next match. Okay, now we have a match between Dieu Amphibien and Shiba. Dieu Amphibien is using a dragon team with Roaring Moon, another Roaring Moon dragon team, very rare. So this looks like it's going to be the Mon of the week. And Shiba is bringing a relatively standard Dark team. Probably going to have Battle Bond Greninja as well. It seems like most of these teams that are choosing to use Greninja are not using the Protean. They are opting to use Battle Bond instead. And I'm sure there's definitely a good reason behind it. I mean, I imagine a lot of people talked about when I talked about the fall off of Greninja in the viability rankings update video, I said that it's basically just not as good of a special attacker as Darkrai and Hoopa, who both just offer a lot more to Dark teams. Greninja still has its great speed tier, and Protean was decent, but without it constantly changing based on the move you use, it's a little bit harder to kind of work around, or not really work around, but kind of play around with the less Choice Scarf heavy sets. But with Battle Bond, it probably gets into new Breath of Life, because now it acts as a revenge killer that can snowball once it gets a revenge kill. So, and that could blow a game open really quickly, because the Battle Bond boosts are no joke, especially on Greninja. So, yeah, we'll see how this goes. Dieu Amphibien, leading with Curum, as we do see the Masquerada come out from Shiba. That damage, I think, is Choice Scarf, as the Ice Beam will one-hit KO the Darkrai. As we do see the Fairy, or the Play Rough, used on the Arcaludon. Arcaludon getting a critical hit on the Ting-Lu. That critical hit is very important because Ting-Lu's HP is valuable. As we do see a body press come onto the Mandibus as well. Another stamina stack going through, as Super Unbound is coming in. Are we depending on a Focus Blast? I'm not sure if I'd like that. Nope, we see the Hyperspace Fury one-hit KO the Dragapult, as we do see Curum come out now. Ting-Lu coming in, not able to take the probable Ice Beam that's coming. No, it's Draco Meteor, but same story. It's just that now Curum is forced to swap out against the Masquerada, as the Arcaludon does come in and safely tank that U-turn from Masquerada. Hoopa coming in, once again threatening a Focus Blast. Focus Blast was used, but unfortunately did not get the KO, as Draco Meteor comes through on Latios, but Latios is just too weak to get the KO, as Hoopa does get the KO onto Latios, while dying in the process due to its Life Orb. Now we see Greninja come in. Greninja is immediately swapped out for Mandibuzz, who is easily able to tank the Heavy Slam. Mandibuzz does get to defog off, which allows its remaining breakers to do their job. Greninja now coming in, looking to get a KO. Ice Beam does get used, but the Life Orb and lack of Protean does nothing to it, as it looks like Shiba is trying to go for a freeze. Heavy Slam not going to do much due to Greninja maintaining its water typing. Ice Beam being used again. Yeah, Shiba is going for a freeze here to try and blow the game wide open. Unfortunately, it does not look like he's going to get it, as the Heavy Slam will KO the Greninja. Masquerada now coming in. A Triple Axle being used, but oh, Triple Axle gonna be very brutal against Goodra, because I believe it will proc the GUI every single time. Yeah. So Masquerada is going to be extremely slowed. And it does get 1-hit KO'd by the Heavy Slam. Very unfortunate. But yeah, losing the Darkrai definitely blew this game wide open for Dieu Amphibien, as it made it a lot easier to handle his remaining threats. But yeah, well played to do. The unfortunate crit, the crit on Ting-Lu was pretty brutal. It is what it is with Pokemon sometimes. But yeah, not much of note in this match. Roaring Moon kind of just didn't do anything. But I'm assuming it was probably also Choice Scarf, just based on the rest of the team. Actually, he did have Latios, so maybe it was a Dragon Dance set? I don't know. But what I do know is that this match was decently well played. So let's move on to the next one. Tara 25 versus Ethereal Sword. We have a Poison team versus a Ghost team. Not a matchup I was expecting to see this early in NWPP, but here we are. Tari 25 opting to use relatively standard Ghost team, actually. Very standard. And Ethereal Sword is using a relatively standard Poison team as well. These are both extremely standard teams for their types, but it's just, you know, you never see them because they're super rare. But yeah, let's see how this match goes. You rarely get to see a matchup like this in high-level Monotype, so can't wait to see. We do see the U-turn on Iron Boss, so it looks like it's a Choice Scarf set. I'm more of a fan of the Choice Spec set myself, but definitely in a tournament setting, I think U-turn is a lot better for the consistency. As we do see Galarian Silicone tank that Shadow Ball like a champ and use Future Sight. Fluttermane will come in on the Iron Moth Overheat. Iron Moth will not get the KO, but you know what will? The Future Sight, as Fluttermane is essentially a one-hit KO there. This is actually a very brutal combo for the Mirror Herb on Toxapex? Wait, the Mirror Herb on Toxapex is actually an insane text to bring against Ghost, because now Poltergeist doesn't work on Toxapex anymore because that happened. What an interesting way to remove an item from the Pex. But yeah, now Brambleghast basically can't use Poltergeist on Toxapex, or Seraphz also can't use Poltergeist on Toxapex. Sorry, I'm not talking about the rest of the match. Sneasler just lost its air balloon, protecting the rapid spin. Very good play by Ethereal Sword, as the acrobatics will KO the Brambleghast. Seraphz comes in, but now is basically perfectly walled by Toxapex now that Toxapex is not affected by Poltergeist. As we do see the Psychic Fangs come out on Dragapult, 2 Toxic Spike layers going down, basically guaranteeing Seraphz to get a Toxic. Alolan Muck coming in and swipping back out as Toxapex will successfully wall. Yeah, the Mirror Herb tech is actually real against Seraphz specifically. Seraphz literally cannot do anything to this Toxapex now. For those who are unaware, Poltergeist only works if the Pokemon has an item, which usually 90% of the time you have an item on the Pokemon. But because Mirror Herb was consumed by Seraphz's Sword Stance, Toxapex no longer has that item. Very good tech against Ghost. Very strange that it came out against Ghost though, because Ghost isn't a very common type to use. Sorry, I need to keep spectating the game. But Poison Jab is used as Dragapult will come out. Another Psychic Fangs going through. Recover going through on the Toxapex as Dragapult is brought to its last legs, getting its Psychic Fangs stuffed by Muck, as Alolan Muck looks to get a KO on Spectrier here. Nope, it's instead he swaps out into Toxapex. Spectrier, yeah, he just doubles out twice, goes into Spectrier. Spectrier trying to do anything to Alolan Muck, but Alolan Muck is just way too bulky. The Colbur Berry is giving Spectrier a small chance at life, but it will not be enough as Alolan Muck will get the 2 KO. It's just too tanky. And yeah, just like that, Poison takes a W against Ghost. Like I said, the Mirror Herb Toxapex was actually a very fascinating set to use. Like, the Ethereal Sword team was just very solid in general, but of course it wasn't running into the threat that usually faces it, which is Flying's Gliscor or Ground in general. Because usually the reason why Poison isn't brought in tournament, at least from what I've been told, is because of the prevalence of Ground, and also very strong and powerful Ground types, as well as the Steel types that are very good in the metagame. Iron Moth is very good and very vital on Poison because of its ability to try and break through those steals, but Hisuian Goodra is just very difficult to break effectively. Because on paper, yes, you could use Sneasler, but in practice, it's very hard to get Sneasler in a position to get the Hisuian Goodra without losing a lot of your mods in the process. So, yeah, that's typically why Poison isn't brought very much. So, I'm curious if the Mirror Herb tech was for something on Dragon or Dark as well, because Mirror Herb also lowers the amount of damage that it takes from knockoff. It's very interesting innovation by Ethereal Sword, but it was very clutch in this particular game. So I'm curious to see what the logic is behind that set. Maybe I can get an interview with Ethereal Sword. Unlikely, but yeah, very nice set. Let's move on to the next match though. memphisdepayy versus Aesir Iggy. We have a Dondozo. It looks like... I want to say stall, but there's a Hisuian Samurai. I'll say it's like stall-ish. Stallish team from Memphis, and Aesir Iggy is bringing a steel team with Caesar. Caesar on steel, very common in this tournament. So let's see how this match goes. Stall water. So we do see the spikes get used by Skarmory immediately as Heatran is swapped in. Very easily taking the skull as Flip Turn is used, but rocks are placed down. Hisuian Samurott confirmed to be heavy duty boots, as we do see the Skarmory come back out. Ceaseless Edge is used, the Skarmory getting some chip on Hisuian Samurott with its Rocky Helmet. Roost is used by Skarmory to keep it at full HP as Alomomola comes back out. Archelodon looking to tank the Scald, as it does get a stamina boost, no burn. Thunderbolt is used by Archaludon. It looks like it's a Choice Scarf set. Unfortunately, it was not able to get the surprise on the Alomomola, as the Scald does come through, burning the Caesar, and that's going to be very brutal for Aesir Iggy to deal with. As the Flip Turn is used, and Samurott is brought back out. Skarmory is brought back in, as another Ceaseless Edge puts a spike down. Samurott still taking a hefty amount of chip damage from the Rocky Helmet, though. As Alomomola does take damage from hazards now. Heatran now comes out, as Scald will do very little to the Heatran. Leftover is giving it a decent amount of HP. Magma Storm is actually used, but Flip Turn will allow Alomomola to still escape, as Hisuian Samurott does come back out. Alomomola comes back in, taking quite a bit of a hazard chip, as we do see Skarmory get another layer of spikes down. No burn on the Skarmory, as the Scald will be used again, this time burning, as Skarmory is using Whirlwind now. Unfortunately, Hisuian Samurott has heavy-duty boots, so it doesn't take any damage. But Skarmory does use the Roost, probably going to look for another Whirlwind to maybe get a better damage. And unfortunately, he's into Toxapex, who also has heavy-duty boots. How unfortunate. As Hisuian Samurott comes back in and gets the Wish, fully healing it. Yeah, but that's how many boots? That's 4 boots that we've seen on this Stallwater team. It is usually pretty necessary, though. As we do see the 3rd layer of spikes put down. Aesir Iggy in a relatively rough spot here, as Heatran will get KO'd by the full 3 layers of spikes. Iron Tread's now coming in. The Rapid Spin, removing all of the spikes on Aesir Iggy's side. As we do see the Ice Beam, no freeze, thankfully, for Aesir Iggy. As we do see Alomomola take a ton of damage from those hazards. Actually, not able to switch into the Earthquake, as Dondozo is also heavy-duty boots. Body Press is used by the Dondozo, and Archaludon does get a buff from it. Dragon Pulse is used, but it does not do a ton of damage to Toxapex, who will probably heal that off with just Regenerator. Empoleon comes in, very easily taking the Dragon Pulse, as rocks are brought back out. Knockoff is used, and fortunately, Gholdengo does lose its newly gained heavy-duty boots, which would have been nice to keep. But yeah, Focus Blast is used, getting the drop, actually, which is very good for forcing out Gastrodon. Gastrodon actually very dangerously low for this match. Empoleon unable to stay into the spikes because of its removal of heavy-duty boots. The Salt team is now starting to slowly crack, as the Shadow Ball special defense drops are proving to be brutal against the Gastrodon. Dondozo coming back out, as Earthquake is used by the Iron Treads. We do see Caesar come in and brutally get KO'd by the Dondozo Body Press. Archaludon coming in as well. Dragon Pulse being used. Now Dragon Pulse doesn't really have any targets that can take it effectively. So Aesir Iggy is probably looking to beat out the Toxapex with just Spam. Yep, there we go. Are we going to see a Sucker Punch? Aesir Iggy was predicting one, as Samurott is swapped out for Alomomola. Alomomola is very likely going to use Wish here to try and heal Gastrodon back to full, as Brave Bird will do nothing. Yes. And there's the Wish. Oh, Alomomola was actually just planning on taking it, but now Dondozo gets the full heal instead. It's kind of like a catch-22 situation for Aesir Iggy there. Not much you can really do. As the curse starts, and I believe Aesir Iggy may not have anything to do. Actually, no, he has Whirlwind, so he'll be fine. But yeah, Alomomola is dragged out again. Alomomola cannot outsustain the full hazard set by Aesir Iggy, so yeah, the Brave Bird will do very little damage to Toxapex. As we do see Dondozo come back out. Alomomola, once again, getting dragged out at 5% now. He can keep switching, but it will slowly chip him down, because with full hazards, it does 37% damage. So, yeah, that's more than Regenerator's 33%. But yeah, we're going to keep seeing a lot of Whirlwinds get used, as he does try to slowly wear down. Ooh, the roost there is brutal because now Gastron's going to get some of his HP back. Oh, never mind. Gastron is definitely slower than Scarfire. I don't know why I thought he would recover there, but yeah, Brave Bird is used as the curse is used by DugZa again. Yeah, it looked like Aesir Iggy wanted to try and get some more knockoffs off to slowly whittle down this stall team. As Gastron is brought back out again. Brave Bird getting the KO, even though it's burnt. That's actually very huge. Actually, I'm very surprised that it was able to defeat Gastron there, but that's very good for Aesir Iggy, as we do see the rest on DugZa go through. DugZa is now fast asleep, trying to get some curse talk stuff in there. It's going to be a very brutal match for Aesir Iggy to win. As DugZa does come back out, Scarfire coming back in. Sleep Talk getting another rest and not really do much for DugZa. As you do see an immediate curse by memphisdepayy get used, as Aesir once again sends out Lomul. Lomul is now deceased because of what I said earlier. And now DugZa comes back in, but there are no real targets for the Whirlwind spam to really do anything against, so Tuxpex is just going to stay in. We have a Supercell Slam on the Iron Treads, but it does very little damage to DugZa due to its defensive nature. Scarfire comes in, does do a decent amount of chip with Rocky Helmet, but we all know that DugZa is just going to rest that off. So there goes the rest. And now we're going to start seeing some curse talk. We're going to probably be here for a while, as Aesir Iggy will struggle to wear down this team. Iron Treads now coming in. Reminder that memphisdepayy does not have an electric immunity anymore, so Supercell Slam should be good here. Aesir Iggy looking to swap out. Body Press is used immediately by DugZa, as rest will probably be used. No, instead Brave Bird is used by Aesir Iggy, as we see the rest come out from DugZa. Yeah, Scarfire actually has no more roost usages. Sorry, I wasn't keeping track of that. But yeah, Scarfire will be defeated. And now it's Archaludon's turn. Can Archaludon do what is needed to defeat this team? Alright. It fails to get the poison jab coming out. Probably doesn't have anything that can actually hit it. Very shocked it doesn't have infestation though. As Fusien Samurai actually gets KO'd by the Thunderbolt. This could be good news for Aesir Iggy, as it does a ton of damage. What does he get? A curse. Aesir Iggy actually wins. And just like that, the stall team falls. Very excellently played by Aesir Iggy. Aesir Iggy actually played this exactly how you're supposed to. You're supposed to, when you're up against stall, especially with this much boot spam, you have to try and remove those Rocky Helmet, or you have to try and remove as many heavy duty boots as you can with knockoff, which is what he did with his Caesar. Instead of trying to use his Caesar to try and sweep and break open the team, he instead used it to break open the team in a different way and get rid of those heavy duty boots so that he could stack his hazards and just start doing work on some of the teams, because stall teams are like a machine. If one piece of the machine stops working, suddenly the team is going to start falling apart. And that's exactly what happened when memphisdepayy got his Gastrodon very low, and when he lost Empoleon, the cracks started forming, and the team was still very solidly put together, so it was very hard for Aesir Iggy to break it, especially since his breakers were very hard for him to use. But yeah, this was just played very well by Aesir Iggy. So honestly, a pretty good highlight match, I will say. But we'll move on to the next match. Very well played to Aesir Iggy though. Definitely the best game played so far. Now we have Showl versus Leafium Z, both using water. We see Ogerpon Grass, or I say Ogerpon Grass, Ogerpon Wellspring being used by Showl, as Leafium Z is opting for a Alomomola and Walking Wake team. with Manaphy and Gastrodon, this is actually a very unusual team. But yeah, looks interesting enough though. As we do see, yeah, water just kind of is like this. Both of these teams are pretty decently put together, but we'll see how they play against each other. Alright, so we do see the immediate lead with the Okrupon Wellspring. Okrupon Wellspring matching up very well to opposing water without Okrupon Wellspring. So Mono Showl should be in the advantage here, as we do see the Stealth Rock come through. Ceaseless Edge getting a critical hit on the Swampert, as Swampert opts the flip turn out. The critical hit is going to be very brutal for Swampert to deal with in the future though, as we're probably going to see a Swords Dance here. Nope, we see an immediate Horde Leech to get Okrupon back to full HP, as we do see Mono Showl put in the Ceaseless Edge. We do see Ceaseless Edge stacks being put on, as Toxapex does keep the Fusien Samurai hostage. Slowly wearing it down, but unfortunately will come at the cost of spikes, and I do not believe Leafium Z has any hazard removal on his team, so those spikes are going to be there to stay. So we do see the Fusien Samurai fall. If he had hazard removal, this would be very big, but unfortunately it does not look like he has that, as the heavy duty boots will be there on the Gastrodon. Greninja is Protean on this team. Alright, and this is exactly where Okrupon Wellspring wants to be in front of the Gastrodon, as we do see the Swords Dance come through. We do see a potential 2-hit KO on the Toxapex, as Poison Jab is used to escape the poison. No. And I think that may be the match, because now Manaphy gets destroyed. Toxapex comes back out, as we do see another Horde Leech come through. Does he get the poison this time? Nope. He has very little HP, because as we mentioned before, Toxapex has a very low HP stat. Very unlikely that this kills. Yeah, so Mono Shell's going to swap out. Draco Meteor is used, and maybe... no, he doesn't go back in there. Urshifu will come out now. Draco Meteor missing, unfortunately. Urshifu actually does have very low special bulk, so that could have potentially done a lot of damage, but... yeah, Okrupon Wellspring does come through. Horde Leech, 1-hit KOing the Gastrodon, as it does get healed to full. And yeah, that will be the match. It's just an unfortunate matchup for Leafium Z. They both brought a water team, but unfortunately, Mono Showl brought the water team that could beat the water team without Okrupon Wellspring. But yeah, that is just how that matchup is going to go. And yeah. Yeah, it's just a brutal matchup for Leafium Z, but I'd still say he played pretty decently, or tried to play as decently as he could, given the circumstance. But yeah. Not much to note about each team. Relatively standard stuff, and standard sets on everyone. Greninja was still Protean, interestingly enough, but I think it's mainly because he wasn't really thinking about using Battle Bond. But it also could be that Greninja's Protean talents are more appreciated on something like water. So, yeah. Next match, we have Neko versus LBN. Ground team versus a dark team. This dark team does not have Weavile, but it may have Battle Bond Greninja, so we'll see. And Neko's team is relatively standard sand. Yeah, it's actually just completely standard. So let's see how this goes. Alright, Greninja instantly leading with a extra sensory. Oh, Greninja actually having Protean. That's actually surprising. I was not expecting that. As Tinglu comes in on the Ice Shard. We do see Samurott take the subsequent Icicle Crash. As Hippowdon comes in. Has Rocky Helmet, so does a bunch of damage to Hisuian Samurott. As the Body Press comes through on Hippowdon. Toxic gets used, putting Hippowdon on a little bit of an uncomfortable timer, as U-Turn is used by the Mandibuzz, taking Rocky Helmet damage again, but Tinglu does come in and is in a relatively good spot. Hippowdon swapping out as Landorus Therian does take 50% from the Ruination. Heavy Slam getting Landorus Therian very, very low. Did I say Therian? I'm sorry, I meant Incarnate. But yeah, Landorus Incarnate does get the KO onto Tinglu. We do see the KO onto Landorus as the Clodsire comes in, getting the Toxic onto Hoopa. Hoopa does look very scary in this position though, as we do see a knockoff get used. This Hoopa is also the Life Orb set that we saw previously, as Ice Punch is used. Hoopa getting KO'd by itself, as we do see the Hippowdon come back in. Body Press doing a bunch of damage to Manbuzz because of it landing due to Roost. Great Tusk coming in. Great Tusk is typically Choice Scarf, from what I've seen. The Head Smash, that definitely caught me by surprise, but it is unfortunate that it did not hit, and it also did not hit again. Even LBN was expecting it to hit the second time, and was trying to preemptively Roost. Yeah. Very unfortunate, but it does look like that. It does look that Great Tusk will be KO'd by that. Greninja is put out, but is KO'd by the rocks, as we do see that come through. Ceaseless Edge is used and gets another Spike Layer off, as we do see the Hippowdon come in. Hippowdon getting the sand ready, as Slack Off is used. Neko in a very tight spot here. Now, can Excadrill win this match? We see the Rapid Spin. Foul Play is used. An incredible amount of damage was dealt. And Iron Head just isn't going to cut it enough against the Mandibuzz. And that will leave Hippowdon alone with no one to swap into. And yeah, that'll be the match. Unfortunate for Neko, but the Dark team was just too strong against this particular team. And the brutal head smash misses definitely did not help. So, yeah, very unfortunate, but that is the power of Dark currently in this metagame. It's just very powerful and it just has mods that can completely determine matchups. Now Scarfire is just very dangerously scary. But yeah. Let's move on to the next match. We got ImprobableBlob versus Qwily. We have Qwily using a Flamigo flying team, as ImprobableBlob is using Rain. And it's relatively standard Rain as well, with Swampert. But yeah, let's see how this match goes. Swampert lead into the Landorus. Landorus getting those Stealth Rocks up. Okay, so both sides just trade Stealth Rocks as Landorus Therian does swap out into Skarmory. Swampert opting to flip turn instead is overall switching out, but it will take a little bit of Rocky Helmet chip from Skarmory's Rocky Helmet. Pelipper also choosing to still U-turn out as Skarmory gets a layer of spikes up. Urshifu coming in as Gliscor will take the Surging Strikes. Gliscor not going to be very useful this matchup anyway, but yeah. Articuno now comes out as the Surging Strikes will not get the KO onto Articuno. Articuno probably going to get a Freeze Dry off, getting Urshifu very low, but not quite getting the KO. As Skarmory will now come in. Now, is it Punching Glove Urshifu? It is, and it will not be taking the Rocky Helmet damage. Very unfortunate for Qwily, as I believe they were trying to make sure they could get the KO like that. Urshifu getting the Aqua Jet onto Landorus Therian, as will fall to the Stone Edge. Swampert coming in, as now we see the Flamigo. Flamigo takes 31%. Let's see, what will this Flamigo do in front of the Pelipper? It will get the Brave Bird off, but unfortunately... Oh, never mind, Pelipper will not use the... Okay, Flamigo gets swapped out, as we do see Landorus brought in. Barraskewda getting an Intimidate proc off on it, but unfortunately, I do think it is a little bit too late. Oh! The upper hand not quite doing what Qwily wanted there, as Anemoris does come through, or also just gets defeated. And yeah, that would be the match. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure upper hand is supposed to get the KO or work against against the move. I think it might just be priority moves actually that it works against instead of just moves in general. But yeah, I'll have to look that up later. But yeah, very unfortunate debut for Flamigo. But yeah, we'll see how the next match goes. And yeah, not much to talk about either team. The Flamigo team would have been interesting to cover, but it kind of just got washed away by the Rain team, so not much to really note there. Flamigo probably definitely good against Dark and Summon Dragon. Alright, we got Aeran versus Ashball 99. We got a Dragon Mirror with Roaring Moon on Dragon on Ashball's side, as Aeran is opting for Como instead. Interestingly enough, I think I haven't seen Raging Bolt on the past couple of Dragon teams. Which, Raging Bolt will seem to be is currently being hyped up as one of the best mons on the type. So it's very interesting to see at the highest level of play that Raging Bolt is not getting used. Very interesting. But I think it just goes to show how powerful Dragon is. And Raging Bolt is quite not great in the mirror, especially compared to some other ones that you could bring, so yeah. But yeah, let's see how this match goes. Here comes Arkeldon, immediately leading into Kyurem. Aeran is thinking that it is the special set, and he is right, as the special defense drop will make sure that Goodra cannot stay in. As we see the subsequent Protect, getting as much HP or leftovers healing from Goodra as possible, as Raging Bolt does come in. Raging Bolt getting that one-hit KO onto Arkeldon, not even trying to fear the potential of Choice Scarf, as Kyurem will come back out. Ice Beam getting the one-hit KO onto Raging Bolt. Dragon Bolt now coming in, as Hisui and Goodra on Ashball's side goes to tank the Draco Meteor. Ashball correctly predicting that it is a special Dragon Bolt set. As a Dragon Tail on Arkeldon is used, dragging out Latios. Como is now put in, as Ashball tries to go for the Protect. Como using Clanging Scales. It looks like it's not going to be using Close Combat, as Dragon Tail does a ton of damage due to the defense drop from Clanging Scales. Arkeldon coming back out into Ashball's Goodra, probably going to look to get Hazards up. Yes, it does get the Stealth Rock up, but now Kyurem is in for free. Como is going to be put out as the Sacrificial Lamb, as Kyurem will get the -2 from Draco Meteor. Dragapult is put out, as Goodra is put in. The Draco Meteor, unfortunately, not hitting, and that may be game ruining for Aeran, as that probably would have 2-hit KO'd the Goodra at that spot. Yeah. Draco Meteor is used. Dragon Tail is used, getting a critical hit and doing a ton of damage to Dragapult. That HP, probably very valuable. Knockoff is used, and Ashball's Hisui Goodra will fall. Aeran's Hisui Goodra is doing pretty well, but now there's a Roaring Moon in his face. Arkeldon coming in to try and deal with the Roaring Moon on Ashball's side, as Ashball swaps out for Dragapult. Arkeldon getting the Draco Meteor onto Ashball's Dragapult, as now Ashball's Dragapult falls. Kyurem coming in once again, looking to get a KO, as Dragapult is put up for defeat. Latios coming in to try and get the KO on Kyurem, and Kyurem will fall. Also, neither Dragon team has Hydreigon, very interesting. Roaring Moon is put in as Latios gets off another Draco Meteor. Unfortunately, Roaring Moon is slower than a +1 Latios after a Dragon Dance, which is very unfortunate because now Latios gets the KO onto Roaring Moon, and Ashball is now in a rough spot with his Latios, trying to get KOs onto the rest of Aeran's team. Dragon Tail missing on the Hisui and Goodra, Ashbel definitely looking for crits here, but even if he does get a crit, I think that they just don't have enough uses of Draco Meteor to get KOs on the team, and yes, that will be the end of the game. Very well played by Aeran. He played around the Kyurem very well. Didn't sack anything that would help him not check the Kyurem, which is a mistake I see some people make. But yeah, very well played by him. Kept his cool. Very serious player. Not much of note. The Dragon Dance on Roaring Moon. This is what I thought the other set was, but they actually brought Choice Scarf on the other team. So I'm wondering how this Roaring Moon is gonna, how that Roaring Moon is. But yeah, we'll see. Next match. Masskeauuu versus Adjustments. We have a Cloister Water team versus a Ghost team again. Thankfully, this Ghost team doesn't have to worry about a potential Mirror or Toxapex ruining its plans, but it does still have to deal with Hisuian Samurott and Greninja, so it's still going to be a really uphill battle for the type, but with the power of Fluttermane, we'll see how that goes. Alright, Brambleghast. Immediately missing Power Whip against the Hisuian Samurott, which will prove to be fatal, as Hisuian Samurott is most often runs heavy duty boots. They don't really run Sash. There's a good chance that this one may have been Sash though. As we do see the Fluttermane coming in, getting a one-hit KO onto Quacklevel. Ogerpon Wellspring coming out, Moonblast being used, and Fluttermane will fall. As Spectrier now coming in, looking to get a potential sweep off with a Chilling Neigh boost. Sweet Samurai coming in. The Sucker Punch will one-hit KO the Spectrier, as Ceruledge with the Balloon does try to come in, keeping its full HP, but unfortunately will get KO'd by Aqua Cutter. Goldango now coming in, but will also... Oh, doesn't quite fall. Normally it's Cassie Berry, but it had Culver Berry this time around. But the Aqua Cutter from Hisuian Samurott will get the KO. As Dracobolt now comes out as the sole remaining member on Masskeauu's team. Samurott will get KO'd, but can Dracobolt kill the rest of Adjustments' team? Cloister able to tank the -2 Draco Meteor and get the subsequent KO. So unfortunately, that will be the end of this game. Very quick game. But yeah, unfortunately that Brambleghast Power Whip miss is very, very bad for him, because I think this Hisuian Samurott was not Focus Sash. I think it was probably Heavy Duty Boots, because that is the set we've been seeing. But there is a good chance, based on what Adjustments teams looks like, it could very well have been Sash. It could have been Sash lead Hisuian Samurott, but if it wasn't, then that miss was really bad. If it was... Actually, no, it doesn't matter. Actually doesn't matter, because Brambleghast is just faster than Hisuian Samurott. So if he gotten the Power Whip initially, and then Hisuian Samurott got off his thing and dropped the Brambleghast to his Sash, he could have gotten the KO with Shadow Snake, and that would have been a lot better for the game, since that would have removed one of Adjustments' biggest threats, and he only would have had to have dealt with one layer of spikes. But now, instead, he just loses Brambleghast, and Hisuian Samurott is still alive and gets 2 spikes off. So... yeah, that is a brutal miss, and an unfortunate game for Ghost lovers everywhere. But yeah, that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. Let's move on to the next match, as we see Froll1 versus Hammy358. Froll1 using the Galarian Moltres flying team, as Hammy is opting to use the standard, or a standard, Dark team that we've been seeing. We'll see if this one has a Battle Bond or not, but yeah. Hopefully this match doesn't take forever, because it looks like it might. U-turn. Oh, weakness policy on the sorry, on the Tinglu. Sorry, I'm losing track. I'm just so bewildered by the fact that that set was used. Payback doing a ton of damage to Skarmory, as Oh my goodness, this Payback doing a ton of damage. Skarmory is actually really low, and Tinglu was able to get the rocks off on flying. You do see the U-turn, and yes, that is the Protean Greninja. So we've seen Hoopa, we see Hoopa come out. Hoopa, very scary against this team. It's just a very hard-hitting mon. This mon is actually ridiculously powerful, by the way. For what it is, it's actually insane that this mon is still in the tier, but fortunately it just has way too many weaknesses. Dragon Claw will get the KO onto the Hoopa though, as we do see Ceaseless Edge come out through onto the Dragonite, getting a spike off, but spikes don't matter against flying because, you know, they can't get infected by it. Moonblast will get the KO onto the Hisuian Samurott though, as we see Corviknight go into the Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz getting a knockoff off and getting rid of Corviknight's leftovers. But Hame is in slightly dire straits as he is down to his last two offensive Pokemon to try and break open the flying team that still seems to have some of its defensive stalwarts. And as we do see the Thunder Punch get the KO onto the Galarian Moltres. Gliscor now coming in. We see Mandibuzz come out. Mandibuzz probably, yeah, Hame willingly going to take the Toxic on the Mandibuzz, as he probably will try to get a U-turn into a safe position for one of his mons, as we do see Corviknight come back in. Yescarada coming out, probably going to try and threaten the Thunder Punch again, but Gliscor will probably get a nasty surprise instead. Yes, it was indeed triple axle, but it does miss. Hame probably still can go for another triple axle, since it's still a favorable position for him to be in, because Corviknight probably can't take it very well, especially with the lack of leftovers. Triple axle will be hitting both times, and Gliscor will fall. Enamorus comes in. Enamorus, yeah, it looks like it was choice band damage, so Enamorus will be able to outspeed. As we do see Greninja come in, are we going to see a double from Hame to predict the Corviknight? We do not. We instead get the Ice Beam. Corviknight is very easily able to take that Ice Beam, but he will be forced to roost. The pressure will wear down Ice Beam's uses though, but Froll has to be careful of the freeze. And don't worry, it's an instant thaw. False alarm. No need to worry. As yeah, Greninja is swapped out. Corviknight does use roost again, and it is now trapped. Thunder Punch is used. Thunder Punch will also make it so that the, yeah, never mind. Enamorus does come through. Oh, the U-turn on Corviknight actually seals its fates, because it does enough, Greninja does enough damage to just KO both of them, due to his Choice Scarf. So yeah, just like that, Hame wins. Very well played to Hame. Hame just used Meowscarada very well this matchup. Meowscarada just having the Bolt Beam coverage, and opting to not have Play Rough. But Hame definitely doesn't need Play Rough on this team, because he just has so many, like the Hazard stack and the powerful, his Tinglu set actually did a ton of work. The Weakness Policy coming in clutch, taking advantage of the amount of U-turns that get used against it and turning it into offensive pressure, with Tinglu just being able to use Stealth Rock. That set is actually really good. I think it's very good anti-meta set, for sure. Very good awareness by Hame. No, this is just a really good set. Especially into this matchup, it was actually a really good set. So, well played to Hame, and well built team. Whoever on this team built this team, or if it was him or someone on this team, this was definitely a very well put together team. Very solid. And yeah, it won the matchup even in very dire straits. So, yeah, well played. Let's move on to the next match. Kev versus Fiend. So Kev is opting to use Scizor Steel, as we see Fiend opting to use Fighting. So usually you would think that this is a free matchup, but with the way this team is set up on Kev's side, it's actually going to be a bit difficult, because breaking Skarmory is going to be hard. Late game Scizor could be a bit of a problem, but he does have Iron Hand, so that might not be as much of an issue. But Goldango is very annoying for a type to deal with as well. And yeah, there's hazards from both Skarmory and Arkeldon that Kev has to deal with, so this could be very annoying, but we'll see how this goes. Stealth Rock immediately put up by the Arkeldon, as Iron Hands instantly uses Sword Stance. Heatran taking a powerful Thunder Punch. Nobody's using Supercell Slave. as the Sugar Berry will get consumed, and Drain Punch will be used to heal Iron Hands back to full. Gholdengo coming in, Hex being used as the Thunder Punch does come through. Hex being used again as the Thunder Punch, or no, this time it used Ice Punch. Ice Punch not getting to KO. I wonder what the Ice Punch callout was for. Oh, it was probably for Iron Treads, actually, yeah. But yeah, not getting that predict actually puts Iron Hands at a very bad position, but he did break open Kev's team, getting rid of both Heatran and Gholdengo. Gholdengo is very important to get rid of as well, since it lets you at least use your stab effectively. So if Iron Hands somehow manages to get another Sword Stance off, it will be landing a powerful hit onto someone, even if it is Skarmory. But we do see them trade hazards, as Skarmory does go for a Body Press. Rapid Spin is being used by Great Tusk though, keeping the spikes off. Great Tusk also removing Skarmory's Rocky Helmet, I believe, due to its knockoff, as the Body Press will come through again, not doing a lot of damage. Iron Valiant does come in, fortunately letting Skarmory get a spike off, as Archaludon is coming in as a response. Close Combat is used, but Archaludon is able to take it pretty well, also getting a stamina boost off of it. It does reveal its leftovers though. Ooh, brutal lack of KO on the second hit from Close Combat, and that will allow Stealth Rocks to go up. Fortunately, Archaludon didn't go for the kill there, because I think it would have been a worse spot, but we do see Scizor come in, and with if Scizor has Trailblaze here, this might be bad, but yeah, no, he swaps it into Iron Treads. Urshifu getting a Sword Stance, and I think that should be game. Iron Treads survives the Aqua Jet. Alright, so Iron Treads does fall, but Skarmory definitely should get KO'd by a +2 Urshifu at this point, yeah. And Scizor, Bullet Punch does not KO, I don't think, so it should be a free W for Urshifu here. Yeah, as the Surging Strikes does connect. But yeah, you can see that the matchup can be scary, but Arifeen played this very well. So fortunately, it was not. Fortunately, it was under control. Also, I didn't really make any comments about this team. Scrafty has been a mod that hasn't been used on fighting a lot, because people just generally think Gallade is just a lot better, but there are certain teams that do still like seeing Scrafty, and it's nice to see him on this team. I think Scrafty is probably used for insurance against the Laddie twins, because Gallade doesn't really deal with them as well as Scrafty does. Scrafty can kind of set up on them, sleep on them, and do whatever it needs to do, but Gallade just kind of takes their hits and tries to kill them. I mean, I shouldn't say tries, it definitely does kill them, but it's just harder. It just falls off, like, after it takes a couple of hits, because it can't heal itself like Scrafty can. So, yeah. Nice team by Arifeen, and well played. Next we have Scarfire versus Rio Vidal. Scarfire is opting to use a Dark Team with Roaring Moon, and Rio Vidal is opting to use a Fighting Team. Nice to see Fighting come back in the meta a little bit, but yeah, we do see the Headlong Rush. Ruination coming through. Is this also a weakness policy Tinglu? No, it is Rocky Helmet. No, actually, I revealed that the first time. I don't know why I said that, but yeah, we do see the Stealth Rocks get used as Close Combat is used by the Sneasler. Fighting is supposed to have a good matchup against this type. Even with all the stuff that Dark has, it still can be very hard for it to win this matchup. We do see the Gallade get KO'd though, which is not very good. But considering the lack of Greninja on the team... Oh, the Meowscarada Play Rough is actually doing quite a bit of work. Yeah, it looks like it's actually Choice Band Meowscarada as well. But yeah. Yeah, the Choice Band Meowscarada Play Rough actually just completely dominate. Just as I was talking about how good the matchup was for Fighting too. That's brutal, actually. But yeah, that'll be it. Yeah, yeah, unfortunately, this Meowscarada did have Play Rough. Yeah, typically Fighting does have a good matchup, but unfortunately, the Meowscarada had Play Rough, and there was just no solid opportunity to really get a good KO, because Rio Vidal didn't have a solid enough answer for that, but fighting doesn't generally have great answers for it anyway, so yeah. It was a bit of a brutal match, but yeah, I mean, this is the part of Dark I was talking about. It can still deal with it somewhat, but yeah, if Masskeauuu just had at least one answer on fighting, the entire team would have fallen apart relatively quickly, but unfortunately, Masskeauuu did not have any answers on this team, so it is what it is, but that is how it be sometimes. And now we have our final match, Dark Premonitions versus Fentropy. Fentropy always makes a lasting impression on me whenever I see this guy play and bring teams, so I can't wait to see what he cooks up this time. He has a seemingly good matchup into this Dark team with Galarian Moltres, as we do see a Tinkaton team, but this time it's lacking Klefki. Klefki with Azumarill as well, and also using Galarian Weezing. Very interesting team by Fentropy. I cannot wait to see what he brings forward. But yeah, it does look like this team is also another Weavile archetype. Lacking both Darkrai and Anslash or Hoopa. Interesting. Oh yeah, here comes Dark Premonitions with the Tinglu lead as we see the Tinkaton do some damage. Or not some damage, it just lay down Stealth Rocks, but yeah. Mandibuzz does come out. U-turn is used by the Mandibuzz as we do see the Enamorous come out. Enamorous not wanting to test its luck and instead going into Galarian Weezing. Galarian Weezing, extremely obnoxious mon to deal with, by the way. It might actually be what he needs. Oh wait, no, this is actually a neutralizing gas. As the I didn't see that. I don't know why I didn't see that, but yeah, anyway, the Iron Valiant does get the KO onto Tinglu as Masskeauuu does come out. Moltres Galar being double swapped in as a prediction for this. Swaps out into Fluttermane as the agility gets used. Fortunately, that agility is not going to be what Moltres needs at this time, as Fiery Wrath does come out. Moonblast getting the KO onto Moltres. And yeah, Masskeauuu has to come in and try and get a KO here, but he does double out again into Greninja, forcing out the Weezing again. As Azumarill comes out this time. Actually tanking the Hydro Pump. Very good prediction by Fentropy there. Getting the Hydro Pump swap in, and now probably going to use... Oh, never mind, he doesn't try to use Azumarill there. He just goes straight into Fluttermane and gets another KO. Still has Tinkaton in the back, by the way, as a sack opportunity. But Azumarill will come out again as Weavile tries to use Ice Shard. Azumarill cannot use Belly Drum anymore, so it's just going to be using its lackluster power beforehand. But the superpower, actually, it might not even be the Belly Drum set, because it didn't even use its Citrus Berry. So... Wait, I'm not insane, right? It just didn't use Citrus Berry. But, yeah, okay. That's a lot to process, but the Sludge Wave is going to be used by Greninja, but it will get slowed. And I believe Dark Premonitions is very cooked here. Fentropy is playing with this food. I think Fentropy is trying to see if Dark Premonitions will swap out to Weavile and try to get a parrot on him. But this is demonic behavior by Fentropy, I cannot lie. He definitely does not need to do this. Because Greninja is already in a bad spot. Unless, does he not have... But yeah, Fentropy is just going to keep doing this to this poor Greninja who cannot do anything to him. Because the worst part is that I think Dark Premonitions actually has to stay in because he can't really afford to let a Weavile get hit by a Gigaton Hammer. And Fentropy was essentially playing chicken with him. But yeah, we do see the Encore. Well played by Fentropy, and yeah, Dark Premonitions will FF from that. Yeah, that Sword Stance could have been scary, but Fentropy immediately predicted it, got the Encore, that was that. But yeah, well played to Fentropy. Like I said, every time I see this guy play, he's got some interesting sets, and I always love watching whenever he plays a game. Actually, my favorite player in the tournament, but... Yeah, he also played this game extremely well. The Hydro Pump prediction on Azumarill is actually more important than you would think, because it actually just allowed Azumarill to actually do a lot more since it had the superpower. But yeah, well played, Fentropy. And that will be it for this week. So my thoughts on this week, we have been seeing a lot of Roaring Moon on both Dragon and Dark. So maybe that mon is becoming flavor of the month again, because it was popular for a bit a while ago, and then it's dropped off, and now it seems to be coming back. So I don't know what's going on with that. We'll see. But yeah, Weavile has also been showing up a lot on Dark teams, which is very nice to see, but Weavile has always been kind of like a good niche Pokemon. And it usually is decently popular in tournaments. It wasn't really popular at NWP, but it seems to be a little bit more popular now. Especially with, paired with these, Greninjas that have been using Battle Bond. Although, I have been seeing a lot of Protean Greninjas in this week specifically. So, maybe it is like a more 50-50 deal with the Greninja. Because now that people have been using Battle Bond, people are thinking now about whether or not it's Protean or Battle Bond, and now they have to do like different calcs and try to predict different sets. Which that is Greninja at its best, but before it could just do that with one ability. Now it has to do it with two. So, and it still seems like the non-Protean set is still lacking in power, but it does still have like way higher highs than the Protean set at the moment. So yeah, if you build a team around that being the carry, it can absolutely do some work, but I'm very interested to see how Greninja progresses in this tournament, because I really want to see this mon shine, as it did get the spotlight taken from it, at least on Dark. But yeah, very interesting stuff. We did see Ghost a couple of times, but I believe it did get destroyed. Ghost got beaten by unfortunate luck the one game, and then it got defeated by possibly one of the most crazy anti-sets I've seen. I don't think I've seen an anti-set this crazy, except on, what was it? I think it was Gen 7 or 8. We saw tier leader Ian use HP Steel, I believe, on Diancie in order to beat opposing Mega Diancie, which was insane, and everyone lost their minds over that. But yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen a set that crazy since then, and I'm not gonna lie, that set that had to have been one of the most value anti-sets I've seen, like, ever. I think genuinely ever. I think even from OU battles, comparatively, I just haven't seen any anti-set have that much value before in my life, because Seraphz just could not do anything to the Toxapex, and it needed to do stuff because nothing else could break the Toxapex, and if Toxapex had an item, it would have just been able to get defeated, and there's no other way that it could have lost the item besides getting randomly hit by knockoff. The best way for it to consume its item is definitely to have that Mirror Herb against the Seraphz specifically. So, I don't know, that set was just fantastic to watch. Very good. But, yeah. Those are my thoughts for this week. I will see you guys in the next week to see how that goes. And hopefully they will have a spreadsheet by week 3. I'm hoping they do, but so far, as of this Friday, I don't think they have it. So hopefully they will by the next time I do this video. But yeah, with that being said, I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.